Hey everybody, Robert Phoenix here, broadcasting live from Fredericksburg, Texas. Sorry for being just a tad late. Masaki, my guest today, and I were working out a few little tech quirks and having a little kind of drawn up the game plan a little bit for today's show. And it's an eclipse today. If you aren't living under a rock, you probably know about that. And not only is it an eclipse today, it's a lunar eclipse. And we were just 48 hours away from the Saturn-Pluto conjunction, which is historic to say the least. And even if you are an astrological neophyte, you've probably already heard about this. And you're probably trying to wrap your head around what's going on, what's happening, what's going to happen. Well, what we're going to do today is we're going to look at what's already happened, kind of what's unfolding, and more importantly, how we can stay to some degree empowered, grounded, centered, and not only that, but potentially influence the matrix of events or the events of the matrix that are unfolding around us. Because a lot of what we're seeing, in my estimation, is kabuki theater. We're seeing a lot of things that aren't quite real, or if they are real, the presentation that's being given to them clearly is not real. You know, this is about controlling the narrative. And what we've seen over the last 3 years since Donald J. Trump was elected and became president of the United States was a war on who is going to control the narrative. Is it going to be the left? Is it going to be the right? Is it going to be the Zionists? Is it going to be the social Marxists? And the cacophony and the noise that's been created around this has been deafening, to say the least. A lot of people are tuning out. But what they need in those moments where people begin to tune out, they need a really good crisis so people can tune back in. Hence, we have what's been happening theoretically in Iran and in Iraq for the last week. So one of the things that has been popular on the internet is to do global meditations. And I have mixed feelings about global meditations. And I think on one hand, a coalescence of energy can be very, very effective, but it doesn't always have to look a certain way. And at the same time, or in the same token, when you get into a global meditation, you have to really figure out who's leading that global meditation. You know, what is their energy? What are they like? And what is the intent behind it? You know, it's when you get up into the realm of kind of high magic, which is where people are starting to kind of navigate in this time. And it's been going on for a while. I mean, not so high with Trump. There's a lot of very dark magic that's been directed to Trump since he was elected. But when you get up in the realm of high magic, you have to be very, very careful. And you have to have really pure, really clean intent. So one of the things that I've been talking about over the last week is the asymmetric approach to navigating through reality so that we can retain our sense of personal empowerment, our own divine authenticity and being, to honor the logos inside of ourselves, while at the same time figuring out how to begin to hack this matrix that we're in. And I did a talk 2 nights ago with Jerry and Nish over on the Obelisk. And it was really, really good. And one of the things that came out of that fusion between the three of us was looking at where the nodal energy is happening in 2020 and the node shift into the sign of Gemini. The true node shifts in Gemini, south node in Sagittarius. Gemini is a trickster. Gemini does not come at things directly. Gemini will play with reality. Gemini will take one position, then another position. So that's going to be the keynote of the energy starting in June 2020 and extending out for the next 17 months. So just keep that in mind. I did, and what I wanted to do in the spirit of that kind of energy which we're approaching was to bring on my good friend Masaki Miagawa and figure out if we could actually play with some Masaki's technology and some of these tone frequencies and actually lovingly this is the big part here, direct them to some of these key players involved, because it would be a wonderful thing if they could open up and to see the world through our eyes and through our hearts. So it's a little bit of a risky thing. Are we getting their permission? But I think that the override here and the intent is coming from a pretty good place, and we just want them to be able to experience something really profound and deep and crystalline and really light and positive. It's like we're going to feed them some nutrients here. So with that said, Masaki, thanks for coming on today.
Thanks, Robert. You have one of the most informed audiences, and you yourself, you're putting the information out there, enlightening minds.
Well, a lot of them are buying your products, so I think that it's amplifying their potentiality, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And I have a pyramid over here that I made specifically for meditation last week.
Right.
But it's a little bit bigger than my other. This is about like 13 pounds, 13 and a half.
Oh, that is the howitzer, man. Look at that.
It's pretty strong, Robert.
Holy smokes.
But just like you were talking about, the pink, this Hello Kitty pink, it's a rose quartz here.
Yep.
It's self-acceptance, brotherly, unconditional love. So
okay,
good thing to beam out, right? So
yeah, I love it, man. I love it. Hey, let's just get into a little bit of the technical side of that. How long does it take you to create a piece like that?
Well, if people put an order in for like a powered pyramid, I say 2 weeks turnaround just to give me enough time. But if everything went perfect and I'm basically working nonstop, I could turn it around in 3 days.
3 days.
Because I have a lot of orders coming in, sometimes there could be something wrong. I've cast pyramids sometimes 3 times to get the perfect casting. So that's why I say 2 weeks, given I have a lot of orders coming in and I want to give, perfection.
Hold that up again. Hold that up again.
Yeah.
Hold it up again. Hold that pyramid up again.
Yeah.
Strain your back. That's 3 days. Okay. This is a master at work. You can crank this out in 3 days. You know what you're doing.
And you could see how shiny it is. This is like a gallery piece. It's polished,
You know what you're like, Masaki? You're like these samurai sword creators. You're like the samurai sword guy of Orgone.
Yeah. So all those swamp monsters, love and light.
Okay, we're gonna be dosing them up today. So the format is this is how today's show is going to go. Some of it's going to be informal, some of it will be formal actually. And Masaki wants to do a meditation. Now, this meditation is not a global meditation to influence anything. This is a meditation to ground and to open your channel up. Okay, so we're not going and taking our energy and sticking it somewhere. That's not what we're doing. And even when we do the frequency work, the frequency itself has its own intelligence, right? We're working with higher dimensions, right, Masaki?
Yeah, and basically, most of the visualizations or meditations that I do with the pyramid, and the pyramid is just a tool. You could use. I have a quartz pyramid here. You could use a lot of tools to basically boost your own thought form, right? This is just a powered way. But like you're saying, actually the most important is not to externalize, it's to internalize. So if you are balanced, we do our grounding, connect our energy to the earth, and also electrical equipment has a ground for a reason, because it keeps the energy stable, right? So we ground, we energize ourselves, we cleanse ourselves, and then you become much more powerful. And also some people say that the higher vibration or the higher frequency you are, it's not like you're fighting. You're not in this us versus them polarity. You actually become invisible to like these lower vibrations, you know?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. And it feels to me like, people have asked me, so how do we combat this? How do we deal with this kind of rampant viral psychopathology on the planet? And my response is that if our vibration and our consciousness is really vibrating and humming at a high level,
Yeah.
and we have enough of us doing that, it becomes very difficult for these so-called entities to live in that environment. And
Yeah.
it's like an anaerobic effect.
Well, I think a lot of people that are into health and holistic living, that they say that 99.9% of people on the planet have parasites, some level.
Yeah. Yeah.
It might be
Yeah. Yeah.
microscopic, but you have parasites.
Yeah.
Well, we happen to have human-sized parasites walking around.
Right.
And if you just cleanse, raise a vibration, it's like you're flicking the light switch. What do the roaches do?
They run. They scatter. Exactly. Yeah. We talked about this on the obelisk, and Nish had a really interesting point about this, right? Because a lot of times we see in the health community, especially in the vegan world, where there's this almost like freakish, not all vegans, by the way, let's be clear, but there can be this freakish obsession with becoming cleansed and purified. And that obsession leads to some very distorted self-imaging that people cannot see, because there's a time where you can back off of that stuff and kind of allow for another process to accrue and take place, or occur and take place. But the other thing that she brought up, which I thought was interesting, is that there have been parasites, there will always be parasites, and that if there is a manageable degree of parasites, like, they play a role, but it has to be manageable. And what we, I think, have allowed to happen is an overinfestation of parasites. And I think that's kind of where we are.
Well, just like you're saying, everything has its role. So the problem isn't necessarily the parasites, it's what conditions have allowed them to fester, right? A lot of the fungus and these organisms that break things down, it's because they're nature's kind of like trash collectors, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
right. So they play a role. It's just that when there's too much of it and we're over infested in them, it gets very difficult to function at even a baseline level, right? So the good news is that it feels like that there's a process, and Michael Jones talks about this with his idea of logos. And it feels like this process of logos is actually bringing these parasitic entities closer to the surface so that we can actually see them in a much clearer fashion than ever before in a lot of ways.
Well, whatever people think about Trump, Assad in Syria, he said, Trump, you got to give it to him. He is the most transparent president the Americans
I've said this
have
all
ever
along.
had.
I've said it all along. He's the most transparent president, whether you like it or not, or can see it or not. It's all out there. It's all on the table. And even if it's not, it doesn't take a whole lot of digging to find out what's underneath.
Yeah, I mean, it's all up, like you're saying. Nothing's being hidden. So, I don't remember Obama doing the sword dance with the Saudis, but Trump's like, hey, businessman, we're cutting this deal.
Right.
So everybody knows. I mean, he doesn't hide anything, right?
No, he certainly doesn't. And and even going back to like the Billy Bush video or the Billy Bush tape. Remember that?
Your audio's breaking up a little bit.
Sorry. How about that? Is that better?
Still a little crackly.
Okay. Let's do this.
There's some parasites in the signal.
So one thing, man, this audio stuff I battle with, and it's
yeah.
So we got
still a little.
I'm gonna redo this. Give me 1 second. What about now? How are we doing now? Is that better?
It's a little better. Yeah.
It's a little better. Let's try one more thing here. Let's do this. How about now? How about now? Is this any better?
I can understand you. It's still a little crackly.
Okay. All right.
There, that's very clear. That's clear.
Okay. Okay, good. All right. Let's do this now. We're good. We've sorted that out. But yeah, extremely transparent. Obama was not transparent at all. Everything about Obama was occulted. And with Trump, it's clearly not so hidden in plain sight.
Yeah, Trump even had he was a keynote speaker at one of those pro-Israel groups, and he said, "You know, the American Jews out there, you don't love Israel enough." So he's like totally in the open, right?
Well, yeah, he's also trolling. He's trolling him.
Yeah.
He's King Troll. Trump is King Troll.
Yeah. Well, that's the other thing.
He's the best troller on the planet.
Is like, is he really a Zio, or is he like just because it's never too good when you're like too out front, right? So Trump is like super up front. So he goes, well, you know. Yeah.
So this is the surreal beauty in some ways of Trump.
Mm-hmm.
Is that if you were going to lead the country, and by the way, I don't agree with everything that Trump does, but if you were going to lead the country and theoretically play a role in kind of where this world is headed, I don't think you would want to come across as being stately and elevated and enlightened. I mean, I don't think that that's the role. I mean, we think that that's what a great leader would look like, or at least at this time. We saw that with Obama. I mean, he had all the kind of street cred, and he had the demeanor and the appearance. But Trump you never know where he's coming from. Sometimes he's an utter buffoon and a fool. Other times he's a complete bully. Other times he has great empathy. I mean, you're never sure he's coming from. And it's like when the guys from Clemson came to the White House, he bought them all fast food for their appearance at the White House. So you never know where he's coming from. And if you want to be effective at a high level, you almost have to play that game, and whether it's intentional or not, right?
Well, I think Trump he's the 4chan president. He's the Pepe president. I think there's been more memes that have come up during the Trump presidency than ever before. And yeah, I mean, whereas like say Putin is very stately, you can tell he comes from an intelligence background.
Right.
But Trump he's the president of clown world. But you know, people say that have seen him in person, and he's done some conferences for social media. He had that one maybe in the last months. Yeah. They say he's actually quite entertaining and funny. I mean, the guy, you know, I said this recently, and you said it. Trump isn't a president. He's a force of nature. He's like so archetypal. It's like God put him in there. And, you know, apparently Hillary didn't eat enough babies, or they didn't do enough rituals, because everything they've thrown at him 24/7 for like 3 years didn't work. So it's like God wants him in there because the Trump effect, the Trump Tower, the so archetypal Trump, his job's not done yet.
You know, you bring up a great point, and I shared this. And one of the things that I do is every couple times a year I go back to a really great place in Philadelphia, Bucks County, store called Solutions. Shout out to Honey. And if you're ever in that area, please go there. It's a wonderful store. And so I go there and I'll give a talk. Excuse me. And the last talk I did was looking at this year ahead, 2020, and it's online. You can find it. And one of the things that I talked about is that we cannot judge the time that we're in from the perspective where we're at right now. And any kind of, in some ways, attempt to nail some meaning down and say, well, this is what's happening, and this is where it's going to go, all fucked or doomed, I think is premature, because there's something much bigger going on here, and there's this deconstruction phase that we're part of. And even with patriots, I'll see so-called patriots say, well, he's a Trojan horse and he's here to usher in the end of America. Well, it's kind of more than that. I mean, I think that's a kind of a narrow and simplistic view. So to your point, he is a force. He's almost like, in some ways, a demigod. And this Trump curse is mind-blowing. Anybody that crosses him, think about the Golden State Warriors. You're a sports guy. What happened to them? They got destroyed. I mean, this team that wouldn't go to the White House, got all woke on him. They got destroyed. I mean, literally, their top two players were so disabled that they can't play in the team this year. One left, and right now they're one of the worst teams in the NBA. Steph Curry, I actually really like. I think in his heart, Steph's actually a sweet guy. Yeah. Some bad advice and bad programming, but he's even out now. So it extends even into entire teams, and not just individuals.
Well, Hollywood's really getting its butt whooped right now because they've gone so hard on the cancel culture SJW stuff.
Right.
But now, the winds are changing. And it's really interesting, Robert, that they've made so many movies that are so bad that you have to think it's really not about the money anymore. It's about the ideology. So all across the board, from the advertising, the movies, the music, they're like almost like communist propaganda fodder.
Oh yeah.
But it's not making money, and it's not working culturally anymore. So it's very interesting.
No,
you're blow back on them.
You're absolutely right. And I think that a lot of the directors now in Hollywood are sort of deep in the heart of millennialism. So we're getting a lot of kind of millennial ideologies, not just in Hollywood and movies, but also on TV as well. And it's just like they're circling the drain, Masaki.
As far as Trump, you probably know this, but he is a magician, whether he knows it or not, because he is an acolyte of Norman Vincent Peale, The Power of Positive Thinking.
That's right. Yep.
I could talk about that a little bit. Because
go ahead, man. Break it out.
Yeah. Well, one thing about, Trump's Trump, but if you dig deeper, there are identifiable things that really connect back to who he is.
Yep.
So he believes in the power of positive thinking. And one of those things is, of course, he's a Gemini too. And he's cunning, but it's basically, you never admit you're wrong. You never.
That's an Aries trait too, by the way. But the power of positive thinking is about never admitting you're wrong, which is what you're getting at.
Right. And so, Norman Vincent Peale, he said, change your thoughts, change the world. Right.
Yep.
Trump quote, I've always won. I'm going to continue to win. And that's the way it is. And and then there was this book, you probably know about it. It was, I think, the bass player from Blondie, because Gary Lackman. Mm-hmm. He has this book called Dark Star Rising: Magic and the Power in the Age of Trump, which he's like very anti-Trump, but I don't think anybody's really written a book about this aspect of chaos magic.
Yeah.
So he says far-right magical ideas at work in American and Russian politics, ? With an esoterically based European Union system, European Union between them, the last redoubt of the old New World Order defiantly hanging on ? He goes, I'm not conspiracy minded. He's basically pointing to that, is there a non-traditional esoteric energy or movement going on? Because remember, most Americans are not like us. they're totally above board 3D, right?
Right.
So
Right.
it was interesting. He wrote this book. He goes, I'm not conspiracy minded, but he goes, I've looked at this and all the material around it. I begin to wonder, are order and chaos gearing up for a magical battle that will change the political landscape of the world? Is it some kind of occult war, or has it already begun?
I think it's a really prescient insight, and I would say the answer to that is absolutely yes. Absolutely yes. So Obama and his crew come out of a group that's known as the Bohemians, and they're kind of Luciferian Crowleyites, right? Just the magical side. Then you throw in the Islamic side, and by the way, there are very strong ties between Islam and Freemasonry as well. And Obama is a Prince Hall Freemason.
Oh, of course.
Yeah. So that's one group. With Trump, which is still yet to be identified in some ways. Like, I don't necessarily think it is sort of Zionistic, Kabbalistic. I'm not sure. I mean, I think that's in there. Don't get me wrong, but I don't think that. I think Trump is kind of running a different program. I mean, getting back to the Norman Vincent Peale thing, which is really important. On the other side, his other teacher during that time is Roy Cohn. And you have these, you have this one guy who is probably one of the most vile people in the world at that time. And this is a guy that sat on the committee for what is it? He was oh man, I'm having a blank. It was the committee for where they were.
Was it Un-American
in Hollywood? Un-American, thank you. Yeah. So he was there, right? He was McCarthy's legal aid.
Well,
so he knows shit.
Part of the Process Church. He might have been part of the Process Church too, because I think they found like some bodies in his backyard, basically. So, yeah,
he's one of these really despicable characters. That play that was really big during the '80s called Angels in America by Tony Kushner. Roy Cohn plays kind of a central figure in that play, where he's tormented and has to be saved. It's a really this is one of Trump's teachers. So typical Gemini fashion, you've got Mr. Despicable and Roy Cohn, and then you have Norman Vincent Peale, who is all about the kind of the esotericist inside of the traditional mainstream church, and all about positivity and I think that these two elements really come together and comprise sort of the very dark side of Trump, vis-a-vis Roy Cohn, and this other lighter side. It's a fascinating study.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's undeniable that chaos had a lot to do with Trump being elected. There's a lot of talk about the Pepe meme.
Right.
But what people also have, because, I think we hit a major turn with this Iran thing. Because you see the QAnon crowd now, they've taken a certain turn, right? What people have to remember is chaos magic can work, but chaos has no master. Once you activate that chaos, it can work for you half of the time, but then chaos doesn't belong to you.
Right. Chaos magic is the engine of the left-handed path. So once you get involved in that, then it's about obliteration and redemption at some point. It's kind of where it goes.
Yeah. And
good
mentioning
stuff, man.
Trump is the 4chan president, right?
Yeah.
Well, the number 4, and this year is 2020, right? So
that's right.
The 22-4.
Yep.
So 4, you could connect the number 4. The planetary ruler is Uranus, or it's basically Aquarian energy, which is chaos, right? It's the overturning. Yeah.
Right. And that's also Trump's. I wouldn't call it his ruling planet, but conjunct his sun, man, it's got a ton of influence. Right. He's got that Sun-Uranus conjunction, and he's a Gemini with a twin turbo with that Uranus conjunction. So it's also. Go ahead.
Oh, I'll just say this, that I had a friend that said, when I saw that Trump said grab him by the P, and nothing happened, he goes, I knew this guy was dealing with some serious chaos magic.
Right. That's the Billy Bush tape. And that's what I was getting at.
Yeah.
And that there's a theory, by the way, that the Trump camp actually let that out. That they leaked that for a very specific reason. Number one, they leaked it because they knew that it was eventually going to be leaked, so they wanted to get the jump on it. And number two, that's what Trump does. If you read Art of the Deal, he throws a hand grenade in the room and watches everybody kind of scatter and see how everybody does with the unexploded hand grenade. Does somebody run and go in and try to disarm it, jump on it, get out the door? So I think that was one of those hand grenades in the room, and it was a calculated risk. And once he could surmount that, it was like, well, what could really take him down, right? Because that would like kill most people's political career.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting, and I don't think it really matters who wins the election.
If we have one. I have to hedge my bets on
if we have one, but at this point, I wouldn't be surprised by anything. What if the economy totally implodes and Trump is still popular? It could happen. You never know.
Oh, I think he's gotten to a point where he's I think we'll use the analogy of the building because he's a builder, and the MAGA crew is his base. And I think that base has become a really solid foundation, and it is unmovable. Like if you're really, really into Trump, nobody's going to tell you that. And he's got this thing where he says, I could go shoot. He says this, I could go shoot somebody on 42nd Street and I'd still get elected. Right. I mean, this is Trump in his bizarre glory. But his base is unshakable. So if we're looking at Trump and he's actually constructing his own tower through his presidency, I'd say he's well off his base now, and he's probably somewhere in the middle part of constructing this thing, this metaphorical tower that he's working on.
His popularity is basically at the highest it's ever been. It's equal to when he got elected, which is highly unusual for a president because every presidency, the polls drop. But then this whole impeachment thing, it actually boosted his numbers.
It's the best thing that can happen to him. And Jay Widener and I talked about this, and he just leaned into it. He said, I'm not going to go into a cave like Nixon. I'm not going to surround myself with my Dixie Mafia, right? I mean, he didn't do that. He said, I'm going to lean into this thing. And he did. He totally leaned into it. And he became this, he's an alchemist. And he transmuted all this negative energy into more popularity and rising numbers. In fact, Democrats defecting.
Are you tired of winning, Robert? Because you're a winner. We're all winners.
We're all winners. I love it. There was something else I was going to say about Trump, but we could just talk. I mean, absolutely fascinating. I don't like the people that are around him, but this gets back to your point, which I wanted to circle back to. Like, is he really a Zionist? Or is this kind of a thing that he's doing? And he's going to pull the rug out from everybody.
Even if he was just Trump being Trump, he would mess it up for them too, because he has that inborn chaos.
Yeah.
Like I was saying, when he's at the, whatever it was, the Israeli Forum or whatever, American Israeli Relations, he's on the podium being Trump, and he says, I just want all you out there to know, a lot of you American Jews don't love Israel enough. I mean, when you're that out front, no president has ever done that before.
He did that during that what is it, the Harry K. Smith, or that there's this function that happens every year in New York, and it's run by the Archdiocese of New York, and it's a really famous event, and it just in his presence. It was just before the election. He's there, and Hillary Clinton's there, and thing is a charity event held by the Catholic Church, whatever, each year. And Trump went up and he spoke to the entire room, and he basically said, I donated to most of you in this room. Right. And he even looked at Chuck Schumer and said directly to Chuck Schumer, I've donated to you've all taken my money. And he was just, it was almost like a Ricky Gervais moment. He was doing stand-up comedy and ripping these people to shreds. And then Hillary got up there and, did her Hillary thing. She was mild. I actually think Hillary's kind of funny, by the way, whoever she is, whatever she is. But at the end of that dinner, that event, Trump quietly walks out with Melania. And when I looked at him, like, he's cut in a very solitary figure. It looks quite alone. Meanwhile, Hillary's there. She's got Huma on her elbow, right? Huma's on her elbow. And she's chatting. And like, if you looked at that event with the elites in that room, you wanted to predict who was the president based on that event, it would have been Hillary Clinton, slam dunk, hands down. But something happened in that event where Trump was able to do this chaos magic thing, which is what you're talking about, and basically showed everybody in that room he had no fear of any of them.
Well, I think what people have to consider is only a person like Trump with supreme confidence, such a huge ego, could have done what he did. Of course, he had the backing of various groups, but Trump is basically like a rock star because he was a industrial. He's basically a kind of a New York mob boss. He's rubbed shoulders with the elites, the rich and powerful. I saw a photo of him in the 80s with Cyndi Lauper, Supercat, and Shabba Ranks. I mean, they called Obama the cool president, right? But Trump has had to deal with mafia, with bankers, with celebrities, all kinds of people. So he knows how, as a person, he knows how to work it. Whereas a lot of these other people, as politicians, they never went through that, So.
Yeah. I talked about this, I think, last week. And Trump is, in a lot of ways, this kind of consummate outsider. And he actually likes it because he's not a blue blood. He doesn't come from the Van Dynes, the Van Burens, or the Rockefellers. That's not his peerage, even though the Rockefellers aren't really blue bloods. But, he comes from the Trump family. And his father was essentially first generation in his family, slumlord. I mean, that's where the Trumps made their money. They made them off of really, really cheap properties. And who was buying those properties at the time and getting their claws into the New York real estate world? It was the Jewish real estate world, the Jewish real estate community. And so that's where those are the people that Trump learned from. That's because they were outsiders. They weren't blue bloods. They didn't have peerage. So he became very comfortable with that group, and he learned again at their elbow. So he, there's, in some ways it makes sense that he would kind of bring some of that into the White House with him because those were both his competitors and his teachers. But to your point, he's crossed so many social circles and spectra that it's kind of mind blowing.
Yeah, and I don't know if you've seen this, but Back to the Future, the producers say that Biff, in the Back to the Future, he's he's like that Biff was based on Trump. And so if people go look on YouTube, Back to the Future Trump president, somebody made a video before in that election season 2016, and basically it's Marty McFly, but then they replaced all the Biff stuff with Trump. It's funny, but you got to wonder because supposedly his uncle found Tesla's papers, right?
Right. There's the time travel thing that dovetails with this. Yeah.
Trump had the sports almanac, Robert. That's how he became Trump, the mega millionaire, whatever.
Why not?
Yeah.
I mean, why not?
We're living in such a matrix. People ask if we're living in a simulation. I mean, Trump is our, people say W. Bush was cartoonish, but Trump is just like over the top, right? We're in a simulation.
W. Bush was buffoonish, totally buffoonish. Whichever one they trotted out there, because I think there was more than one.
But I think this is also a thing too. Is like there always has to be a balance, but typically people are very externalized and they haven't done their self work. But the more that because as we know, Robert, this year is going to be very chaotic, right? But when we crossed to New Year's, I felt so good New Year's Day, even though consciously I know it's going to be very turbulent, but in my gut, I felt like so refreshed. Like, this is our time. This is our time to do our thing.
You're preaching to the choir, brother. I've been saying the same thing. I've been saying the exact same thing. Like, that's why whatever's happening in Iran, whatever is going on there, and if we wanted to, we could break that shit down. It's like, it doesn't really faze me. I'm not that interested, because there's bigger fish to reel in right now.
Yeah, I mean, they even had the hashtag World War III, right? It's like, I would really not post anything with that hashtag, because you're just energizing that. And it's very, and I'm not saying, we know that there's going to be more events and whatever, but
of course,
it's very disempowering when there's these huge events that no individual person can really have any control over.
Right.
But each of us, because I know in your audience, you have people that are doing holistic work, that are counselors, that do a lot of, healing work, that are helping people. Individually, each of us are very powerful in what we do. And if you get into this, like, well, what's going to happen with the Middle East and all this, you're getting sucked into their agendas instead of empowering what you want to do.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So Chatlandia, which is my loving name for that, in this kind of evolving kind of group of community, I'm convinced it's one of the best chats on the internet. I mean, the people that show up here, and we'll bounce around a little bit between your world and Ra's world and Emily's world and sometimes Andy's world. These are really, really high vibrational, high intentional, really smart people who are doing their work. So it's a good
Getting
group
a little
to
static again.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
It's a good group to constellate around. Give it a little bit of time. I think it's the line here in the connections. Any better now?
Still a little staticky.
Yeah. Okay. Why don't you talk for a bit? Let it work out.
Okay. Well,
in fact, why don't we just transition into the meditation? Let's do that. Yeah. Sure. So why don't you tell people what we're going to do, and the floor is yours.
Okay, so people probably know me from the regular orgone pyramids, but the people were making these from the 90s for EMF protection, better sleep, and so forth. But there's another class of power devices, right? So we have. So basically, you can see in here, Robert, right here, there's an antenna coil. And so this is hand wound. And when you run the current through here, because the wires, they cross over and under, electromagnetic fields at 180-degree opposition, that's what they call the 0 point. It's a canceling effect. So when normal EMF fields cancel like that, the energy disappears. Mm-hmm. But where does it go? Well, it goes to, it's like another bandwidth. It's what they call like the etheric realm, right? Or the orgone 0 point scalar energy. Mm-hmm. So a power device like this, it's much, much more powerful than, it's basically the same energy, but it's much, much more powerful than a non-power device. But because you're running this from a frequency generator, pick this up here. I think you can see this, right? Mm-hmm. You have the cords patched in there.
Yep, it's good. Yep.
Push in 432 hertz, right? Or grounding frequency of the earth vibration. Schumann resonance is like 7.83. And now your pyramid's directly running a specific frequency. So it's great for, say, if you're doing for yourself meditation or in a group, people know about chakra cleaning, or each point, right, has a specific number or frequency. So depending on what you want to work on, say you want third eye, you could just run the third eye frequency and they'll specifically boost that aspect. But all around great tool. Can use it, run it overnight for dream session. If you're running it in the daytime, can get like a mental boost if you run a more mental frequency. And any kind of energy tool, even if it's just like, quartz crystal, or say you have tensor tools, right? Any of these things will boost your intention, because it's like the ambient level of the energy in your space is boosted. Then your thought form or your intention becomes much more powerful. It's a tool, it's a leverage. But let me tell you, when you run this is like an orgone cannon. So a lot of people combine the tools they already have, say for like radionics or boosting thought forms, homeopathic work. Then when you attach this to the output, it's like boom. It's like, because for me, it's not subtle. And I was interested to see when I did a group meditation this past weekend, if people would perceive it, because now you have people in like a 40-foot radius, right? People are on their mats, and then I'm running it. So at the end, I said, thanks for being here. Let me know your feedback. And there were people saying, yeah, I felt a buzz, so I said, good. That means it's working. So.
Right. Yeah. Well, cool. So what do you got in store for us?
Yeah, really breaking up. Can't hear.
Oh, man. All right. Hold on. I'm going to. Okay. What about now? How's that?
Still very hard to hear.
Wow. Okay. Give me a second.
We got some static going on. I await Robert's instructions. Don't hear anything.
Testing 1, 2. What about now?
Getting breakup.
Really? Is it still staticky? Are you still getting the static?
Got some technical difficulties. Still.
Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
I can't understand you at all right now.
So something's happening on this end, because my levels are good. Let me try something else. Hold on.
Yeah, I can't understand it at all. So we'll see what Robert does here. Oh, Robert's got another set of headphones. Maybe this will work. We got our backups.
Okay, what about now?
It's still distorted. It's just a different tone now.
It's a different tone. Okay, let me try something else. Hold on. This sucks.
Yeah. I think it's the incoming Saturn-Pluto conjunction, Robert. They're messing with us.
They're like, hey, you want frequencies? Here, we're going to give you frequencies.
Robert sounds like a Dalek from Doctor Who.
Okay, hold on a second. What about now?
It's still very. I can kind of understand you, but it's still very garbled.
Muffly?
Yeah.
All right, I got one more trick. Hold on. What's that?
Yeah.
Speaking of chaos,
Still kind of wonky there. Yeah.
let's do this.
Well, that's why that's why it's a live stream. This is not rehearsed. You people get it live, the raw uncut. You know.
Okay. Okay, what about now?
I can understand you. It's still a little off, but
okay,
as long as I can kind of understand what you're saying, I can take your direction. So
okay, how about now? Is that better?
Still a little garbled, but I can understand you.
Oh, great. All right, let me just crank this up a little bit. How about now?
Yeah, I can understand you. You sound like a Dalek from Doctor Who. That's all. Exterminate.
Time to meditate. Time to meditate.
Yeah.
Let's all meditate. All right, dude. Just if you got the good mic, just
Okay.
Go for it. Start doing your
right.
thing.
All right. So I'm gonna run my pyramid. I'm gonna do kind of a guided visualization meditation. A lot of you out there probably already do meditation. So first, in any energy work or meditation, it's very good to ground your energy, which is basically connect your energy to the energy of the earth. So we're going to do a visualization on that. And then after we ground, we're going to bring in high energy gold light to cleanse and energize ourselves. And then we can take it from there. And I'm going to I'll run Schumann resonance first. It's earth vibration, very slow, calming vibration. It's 878 vibrations a second. It's 7.83 hertz. So let me get that ready. And then I have a second webcam trained on my pyramid. So let's see here. Let's do 7.83 hertz. Turn it on. Getting the head rush already. All right. So I'm going to keep talking and I'm going to switch it to the pyramid in a second. So what I want everybody to do, I'm sure you're all sitting down. I just want you to shake out a little bit, right? Because we've been sitting down. So shake out a little bit, right? Stretch, right? Okay. Now, I want everybody to have your legs. Actually, you could take off your shoes. You could keep your socks on. And I'm going to do that myself. I have my shoes on. Okay. So you have your feet flat on the ground. You could have your socks on. Legs straight, because if you have your legs crossed, that crosses the energy. So you always have legs straight, feet flat on the ground. Palms up towards the ceiling, and then rest them on your thighs. Because sometimes we release energy and we have palm chakras, right? So if we're releasing energy and it's like this, it goes directly back into your body. But if you have them like this, up and out, you can release whatever you want, right? So have our back straight, head straight, looking forward, right? Palms up, resting on your thighs, and then feet flat on the ground. So I'm going to switch the cam here. Let's see here. Yeah.
Masaki, how long should people be prepared to meditate for?
I don't know. I'm gonna do an abbreviated one, but you talking in general or what we're doing?
No, what we're doing right now today.
I would say maybe a half hour, but this is going from just the basic, and then we can go to whatever you want to do.
Yeah, I don't know if we could sustain a half-hour show
okay.
with pure meditation. Then, can we do? I mean, I don't want to.
How about like 10 minutes then?
I think it's a bit long, but if people are willing to do it, then that's fine. Let's try 10 minutes. I was really thinking
Okay.
an invocation, like about a 2 or 3 minute kind of attunement deal.
Okay. Then
Can you work with that?
Sure. We can. Okay. So I'm running the pyramid, but we'll talk. I'll give some instructions, and then we'll switch to whatever.
Yeah, I just really, are thinking we could use this to really ground. Half an hour.
Yeah. Grounding's very quick.
Yeah, let's do a grounding thing.
Okay. So we have our feet flat on the ground, legs straight, palms up, resting on your thighs, back straight, head straight, looking forward. Okay. And then I want everybody to visualize yourself right where you are, sitting in your chair. Okay. And then right where you're sitting, where your behind meets the chair, that's first chakra. So what I want you to do is connect right where you're sitting and make a line connection going down, down, down. So the point right where you're sitting, first chakra, make a gold cord going down, all the way down to the center of the earth. So there's 2 points. Center of the earth, like a little ball, right? Where you're sitting. And I want people to connect it. Make a gold thread, grounding cord all the way down to the center of the earth. Sometimes people have problem visualizing this. So we can open up our crown, top of your head, right? Crown, bright gold column of light coming into your crown, into your head, bright gold light, filling your chest, your abdomen, then filling up your first chakra, bright gold ball. Then first chakra, bright gold ball. That bright gold light's coming through your crown, through your body, down through your abdomen, first chakra. Bright gold ball. And then make a grounding cord, bright gold connection from the first chakra where you're sitting, bright gold connection, going down, down, down to the center of the earth. And then when that bright gold cord, that bright connection goes from where you're sitting all the way down to the center of the earth, makes a connection. And then your grounding cord makes a secure connection, just like growing tree roots around the center of the earth. And then you're connected, grounded, balanced. Your body's bright gold like a Buddha, making a bright gold connection, bright gold grounding cord to the center of the earth. And you have Mother Earth connected to you, completely stable, completely reassured. We're strong. And now, Robert, we can do a visualization or anything you want to do.
Yeah. So I'm really excited about this idea that people can be their own best divine self, their own best divine dispenser of their current reality. And a lot of times we look outwards towards others, and we see that others are doing either rituals, or they're doing something in the world that we think that we should be doing, or we'd be like to be doing. We look to others for some kind of overriding either guidance or message or understanding. And I just want people to understand that that's all within each and every one of us in every single capacity of our lives. And sometimes we get off track a little bit, and we need a little help and need a little reminder and need a little nudge, and that's fine. So I really want people to really see themselves as the best version of who they are. And this is the true God self in each and every one of us. This is the self that God and Logos intended you to be in all of its fullness and power and creativity and imagination and love and empathy. And you are massive. Every one of you are massive beings and capable of so much. And once we understand this, and once we bring it home, and that we and God are one, then we are unstoppable as a force. And we don't always have to look outside of ourselves for who's doing what, or where the message is, or where the truth is. And every now and then it's good to be able to dialogue and communicate and share, but understand you are that force. So that's what I really want people to focus in on. And if you have to let go of something and forgive part of yourself that you feel hasn't been up to snuff, or maybe you feel ashamed of, it's okay. That part can be loved as well. You can bring that into the mix. If you have to forgive somebody as well, that you feel like there's been some harm done to you at some point, boy, this is a good time to let go of that as well. Because we really want to be able to move into this year with exactly the same kind of energy that Masaki was talking about, which is an energy of enthusiasm and excitement and passion and love, and feeling as if anything that comes across our path with us and divine creation, also known as Logos and God, Sananda Manuel, we can accomplish anything. So that's what I want people, if they can, to visualize on at this time. Okay, I want people to take one really, really deep, long, slow breath and stretch the breath down from down to your navel and up to your crown simultaneously. Let's all just do that together. And when we do this breath and we finalize this breath, let's just come out of the state that we've been in and sharing. Here we go. Ah. All right. Wow. Now we're going to have the frequency going for a little while, right, Masaki? Even though we're
I'm running it. I'm gonna kick it up now to 432 because we were grounding frequency. Now we're gonna go to crown.
I got to tell you, man, I was like really close to samadhi. I was like buzzing, seriously buzzing, and I had to make a decision to stay in this because I was like super buzzing. Let's see what's going on in the chat room. Let's see. What do we have here? How are you guys feeling? Raw honey Norris knocked me out.
Well, you know, I have a video of like it's like maybe a 7. It's like one of the songs I sent you, but I had the pyramid running at 432, and I put the 432 music or the tone under it.
Mm-hmm.
It's I'll post the link when this goes up, but people can watch that after. And I actually had a couple people tell me that even though the real pyramid wasn't in front of them, just from watching the video, that they felt some kind of energy more than normal. Yeah.
So here's the chat. Here's what we got in the chat. I was buzzing too, Robert. My crown's buzzing. Feel amazing. Still buzzing. Feel like, I'm telling you, man, we just locked in on a really, really high octave there. That was really cool. Really, really cool. Heart chakra buzzing. So we're going to keep this going for a little bit, and then we're going to do some other stuff. We're going to play with some other things. Masaki, a lot of people know where to find you. Some people don't. Some people might be new to your work. Where can they find you? Where can they check out more what you do?
My website is akaida.com. So it's akaida.com. And then YouTube, Akaida TV, AKAIDA TV. And I'm on Instagram, Masaki_1, so ONE. So I don't post every pyramid I make because sometimes a lot of these are all handmade, right? Sometimes I have some one-offs or I'm trying different designs. Those will typically be on my Instagram. But store stuff like pendants, pyramids, akaida.com.
Right. Okay, cool. So did you feel anything while we were doing this? What was your experience?
Well, I mean, this pyramid's right next to me, so I'm getting the head rush.
You know what's you know what's really interesting is that people in the chat room
Uh-huh.
were hearing me fine. So whatever like distortion was probably coming from your end. So while you were trying to help me sort through my sound issues, they were like, "Oh, he's okay." It's probably come from.
Oh
So
no, I couldn't hear you at all.
you're right, but they could though. That's what was happening.
Well, see, we got some gremlins in the line, Robert. You know?
So did you study like when I was living in the Bay Area? The Berkeley Psychic Institute was really big. Anybody who wanted to go study psychic awareness went to BPI. Did you do anything like that? Did you study with BPI?
I learned about 2006. So when is that? Wow, time flies. So it's 14 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
I took a year-long clairvoyant course in Santa Monica,
Mm-hmm.
and actually, those people had come out of Berkeley Psychic Institute.
Right. Yeah. That's
So
I kind of felt that when you were kind of lining things up. That was definitely a kind of a BPI tool. Cool, man. Cool. So you took a year-long course. Did you experience a lot of phenomena during that time?
It's a different maybe way of thinking, but it's a different life path, different life experience. Basically, just like a lot of your viewers or followers, we all have a lot of stuff. We got psychic people problems, right? So I had gotten to a point, and this is common with everyone. The human race has low self-esteem. We don't have enough boundaries. We're off base. The human being is naturally schizophrenic, right? We're half devil and half angel.
Bicameral. Yep.
So we're just not taught basic, energetic hygiene, but then also kind of like putting our old traumas to bed and that kind of thing. And we have some from this life, and we have some from like other timelines or so-called past life. So I did that for a year, but what's interesting is sometimes the problems you're dealing with are so big. Like I was doing this continuously for 1 year, right? I didn't even begin to process my larger issues to the very end of that first year. It's like, it's so big, it's like this, and you don't even see it. And it's like peeling the onion.
Mm-hmm.
So, but it was from that time. It probably took me maybe 8 years to really feel stable.
That's when Pluto was in your 8th house, right? Going through Sagittarius in your 8th house.
All I know is my butt was getting kicked, Robert, from the mid 2000s to it took me a while, but from that I still use the tools I learned in my work today. So I think that's one thing that puts me a little bit cut above the average person is I'm coming in being able to see this pyramid or this material versus that one, or this tool stronger. I can just see it. And then people that douse, that's one thing I want to learn this year. I was talking to Steve and Chris because they douse. I can see it and I'll say, this is the one, or this is what I'm getting. And then people that douse, they'll reconfirm, yes, we're getting that also. But basically, Aquarian, we're moving more and more into the Aquarian energies. Yeah. So it's just like that Wi-Fi sign. Aquarius even looks like a Wi-Fi sign, right?
It's waves.
We're starting to deal with energies that are not visible to the naked eye. So, on the one end, you have like 5G, ionizing radiation, those kinds of things. Those are harmful energies. But on the other end of the spectrum, we have like tensor tools. We have pyramids. We have pendants. And I think it's very important for people to test their tools. You could do muscle test. I have a video on my YouTube, simple muscle test. And if people have a smartphone, put it to your chest, they won't be able to keep their arm up.
Yeah.
And that's not even on a call. That's on standby.
Right.
So the more active you are in actively, quote unquote, moving forward and becoming operational active and dealing with the positive aspect of these tools, especially probably until 2026. Like you've been saying, we have the Uranus and Taurus and the Neptune and Pisces. These are really amplifying or putting a focus on metaphysical. But one thing that I think people really need to do is the basics and simple things, such as grounding, because a lot of like, I'm not a new ager, but in this area, that blanket kind of gets put on things. A lot of people in the more new age type mentality, they're so floaty and ungrounded that they don't have a good discernment of up and down, especially with that Neptune and Pisces. You're going to get more spiritualism, but you're going to get more delusional too. You're going to be seeing through that water energy, right? So, take things slow, do your basics, do your grounding, do your clearing, and then you can really take advantage of these energies, because I can tell you from working with my powered pyramid, right? And you can use this as a metaphor for yourself, your body, or your spirit self. The more power you run through it, the more important it is to be very ordered and coherent, because it's like an axle on a car, right? If that thing's wobbling day to day, you're not going to notice that much. But once you start opening up and channeling energies through you, that wheel, if it's off, it's just going to like, boop, right? So you need to be, the more powerful you become, the more balanced and ordered you need to be,
Right. Oh, well, that makes total sense. It's, you got to have deep roots for a tall tree. I mean, it's nature in action. Well, that was a really cool exercise and experience. Why don't we so Masaki and I, what we're playing with this idea of like, what would happen if we sent an interesting vibration or frequency in the direction of, say, like Adam Schiff. And again, from this perspective of just brotherly love, right? Fraternal order of so-called humans. And then, just see if we can amplify the field a little bit. So you want to start in on that? You want to get into that?
Sure. Well, let me propose this, Robert. How about that we just in how you say, unconditional love.
Yes.
We beam some very high energy, high consciousness, and open heart energy to Mr. Adam Schiff, because that's not harmful at all.
It's not harmful at all. No.
That's right. We're just high energy. We're trying to
right. We're gonna have a heart connection with Adam Schiff. Can you believe that? Yeah. Okay, so I'm gonna throw his image up here so we can get a visual. And by the way, this will be bipartisan. We got a bipartisan effort here, so it's not like we're just targeting one group over another. This is a Gemini operation we got going on. Give me 1 second. Just have to clear the decks a little bit. Oh man, they're all hidden down here. He's the last.
And this is a rose quartz, and the body of the pyramid is pink. So that's reinforcing that universal brotherly love.
Okay. Here we go. Let's put him up here. All right. I'm sorry, I got a very funny photo.
It's a crazy eyes, Adam Schiff.
This is crazy eyes at its best. All right, here we go. So maybe you want to highlight the frequency that we're beaming here.
Okay. I think we can just run 432.
432.
That's a crown, but it's also just a general high energy.
So we could talk a little bit too about some of these individuals while they're getting a bit of a tune up here. It was really interesting. I saw this video, and there's this guy on Skype, and he confronted Adam Schiff at a Starbucks in LA. Have you seen that video?
I don't know if I've seen that one.
So the thing that really jumped out at me was the quality of how this guy confronted Adam Schiff. I mean, it was really high level. He was grounded. He wasn't angry. He accused Schiff of treason, and he put him on his heels, and not in a way where he was yelling. And in fact, they said, the people around him, said that he had to back off, and this guy said, "This is a public place." And he represents me in Washington, D.C., so I have every right to be able to talk with him. And then he said something to the effect that he was one of his constituents. That's what he said. And Schiff said, "My constituents are better than this." That's what he said. They're like pure arrogance, but you could tell in that moment, just from like energy dynamics. Maybe I'll try to find it and play it before the show is over, because it's really worth watching. And the thing that struck me was that this guy was in total integrity. He was not he was certainly willing to call Schiff out, and he was on some level accusatory, but he wasn't histrionic. He wasn't angry. He didn't want to punch him in the face or anything. And it was because he held that space and that grounding that you're talking about that Schiff recoiled. It's a really fascinating video.
They have no answer. They have no answer to the truth. So, like this mudra is a hand sign.
Right.
This is sword of truth. Sometimes you see the Buddhas have this. So when you direct the truth at these low-level beings, they're just frozen. Either they're going to run away or they're so completely deer in the headlights because they don't know what to do. Especially if you're not angry. Because if you're angry, they're going to say, "Take that guy out of here." But if you're spiritually strong and you say, "We know what you're doing. You've done X, Y, and Z," they have no answer to that, So
I'm going to try to find the video before we sign off today, because it's really worth watching. He shrunk. He shrunk before this guy, and you can just watch it energetically. It's fascinating to watch. Now he's in your area, right? Not far from.
Yeah. Well, I'm pretty much central LA. I'm like 15 minutes north of downtown, and the whole Ed Buck thing, I don't know if it's true or not, but they say that Adam Schiff was at these parties dressed as a pharaoh with these black guys that are dying left and right. So, that's Ed Buck's in LA, and Adam Schiff supposedly is connected very tightly with.
Yeah, he was there for like supposedly 14 or 15 times or something like that at his at Ed Buck's death chamber. That's such a weird thing, man. That whole is he in jail now? I know they arrested him.
They finally arrested him, but it says something that it took like 2 or 3 guys to die before they took, like, Robert, if that happened and they found a dead guy in our house, I think we'd be in jail the next day, right? The same day. It took them 2 years to finally process Ed Buck, but I think 2020 karma's coming for people, especially with the Saturn-Pluto conjunction. It's like the karmic debts. If you've been working hard and putting in the work, I think you're going to be rewarded. But for some of these other people, I think it's going to be unavoidable that the bill's going to come due in 2020.
Yeah. So I was thinking about this 2020 and the numerology of 2020 as well. And if you just look at the theoretical procession of the planets, not counting the sun, right, and not counting the moon, counting Mercury, Venus, Earth, Mars. Mars is the 4th planet, and Mars will be in Aries this year. Once we hit June, it's going to be in Aries for half the year. Mars will be in Aries for half the year, moving into about 2 more months of 2021. It's a really potent Mars cycle, and that gets into that 4 energy that you're talking about.
Yeah, it's gonna be intense because you said it. Aquarius too. The Aquarian energy is going to be strong this year, And Aquarius is inherently destructive, right? Because you destroy the old and you bring the new, and it's also the energy of the rebel and the revolutionary. So, I wouldn't be surprised if every region on the planet are going to have protests by the end of this year.
Yeah, I think that that's probably in the cards for sure. The other thing that's associated with Mars is the tower in the major arcana. And of course, we have visions of 9/11, Twin Towers, Trump Tower, and the tower effect, the breakdown and the destruction of these monuments in a lot of ways to an older time. I think that's going to be in the mix as well. Will we see falling buildings, or will we see these falling edifices of, a dying culture, or a culture that's kind of, ready to be recreated into something new? And that's not the reset, by the way. This is a very different kind of discussion in my worldview. So what's going on? How are you? Is there any way we can gauge? Anybody tuning in to Mr. Schiff right now? Do you think he's being nice to somebody that he doesn't have to be nice to?
Well, Robert, when the very first kind of viewing or psychic viewing I did, and this is from zero. This was like the first time I was looking at things. They said pick like a celebrity or pick a known person. So, it was 2006. So at that time I chose W. Bush. And it was very interesting. So this visualization was, it's a very focused visualization. It was just looking at the grounding cord, just like we made a bright gold grounding cord, right? But using the grounding cord as a convention, what color is it? What do you pick up from it? Mind you, this is from zero. So we're speaking out loud what we're seeing. What I saw from W. Bush was like, okay, Bush, grounding cord. His grounding cord's like black, okay? I saw these black tentacle things attached to his grounding cord. And I'm like, okay, let's look at this. I followed it out, and there was just like these black blobs connected to Bush, W. Bush. And I was like, okay, instructor, I'm like, this is what I'm seeing. I don't know what it is, but it ain't good. It's basically, a lot of these politicians, they're just like, they're basically covered in
black goo.
They're basically just slugs. They are at a slug level of consciousness. So people, that's why self-empowerment and doing your own self-work is important, because not only do you get more balanced, confident, and strong in yourself, but you start to realize our so-called, leaders, or the elected people, you're letting crap push you around. They're literally made of crap. They're like slug level, like pieces of crap. Would you do that in the 3D life if you saw somebody just like covered in crap? You just get out of my face, So it's like the self-confidence and the connection to source for us. I think that's very important, because the stronger that you get, you just start to shift in a whole other direction where, again, it's that oppositional us versus them thing. It's like, well, we are creators. We literally producing energy, right? So let's start maintaining our space, being sovereign, and then pushing in a direction that we want to go. We're aware that this is going on, but then we get less and less sucked into their agendas, right?
Yep. Yeah. No, I think it's the pushing out, right? When we push things out of our field or our bodies, and then we create space for something new and hopefully much more resonant. Do you want to shift our character here? Have we seen enough of Madam? I'm Adam.
Well, I would say this, and end up on Adam Schiff. I think that just everybody imagine calm of bright gold light coming over Mr. Schiff. Give him a little boost of higher consciousness. If you like, you can even beam a calm of that Hello Kitty pink, brotherly love over Adam Schiff.
Right. Yeah, and hopefully experience some redemption and join the party with the rest of us. All right, let's do another character. We're gonna go play the Gemini game. Are you gonna use the same frequency? Or you want to use a different frequency?
I can run 528. That's another. That's one of the solfeggio tones. People like that. That's also kind of like a love frequency. So 520.
Okay, good, because this guy, in my estimation, it tends to trend into completely unlovable. So this is the tone for Jared Kushner. See, we're bipartisan now, right? We're going left, right, left, right, left, right. So what do you actually viewed him psychically, didn't you?
Yeah, I looked at the whole Trump family, but particularly Jared Kushner. This is really gross, people. But I saw him as like a housefly, like a bottle fly. Like it was like this big fly that was inside a Jared Kushner skin suit, and he's just in there.
Oh my
It
God.
wasn't scary, but it was kind of gross. You know, I mean, he's you know that just from his above board mannerisms, he's very odd. But
Very
if you look at
strange.
his energy, he's just like, yeah, he's kind of weird.
So the thing about Kushner that kind of blows my mind is that he has this bizarre ability to convince people that he's special and magical, and I'm not quite sure that he's actually special and magical. I always like reflect back on he was meeting with somebody in the Middle East, and he learned everything about his country and their culture while waiting in line to go skiing. He was waiting at a ski lift. This is one of Ivanka's favorite stories to tell. And when the guy who some important mucky muck heard that, he was completely blown away that he could have such a grasp and comprehension of their culture by reading the cliff notes on his cell phone while waiting for the ski lift. And he was serious, right? So for some reason, which I haven't quite figured out, except for maybe he's the Antichrist, is that people hold him in such high regard because I'm not seeing it. You know.
Well, you know what's interesting? I just pulled up his birthday, so he's a Capricorn. I think.
Capricorn. Yep, he's a Capricorn.
He's January 10th. So in the numerology, 10.
Today's his birthday. Hey, how about that?
Yeah,
happy birthday, Jared.
So the 10 is connected. I think it's the Wheel of Fortune and Tarot. So they call 10 the come up number. So people basically the day of the month from 1 to 31 is a special skill each person has. So 10 equals 1. So he's kind of has it's an alpha trait, even though he's very meek looking.
You're right.
10 is number 1, but 10 in particular, that combination, the 1 and 0, the 10, they are highly affected by the circles they're in. So you look at the connection he has with Trump, his power is immensely boosted being in the Trump family.
Oh yeah, his sun sign, his true note is on Trump's Pluto in Trump's 12th house. Absolutely right. Yep.
So anyone with a 10 birthday, and it could be men or women, but typically I've heard, like say women, if they marry a very powerful man, their fortunes boom. Conversely, if you're in negative circles, it could really bring you down. But another 10 birthdays, Kylie Jenner, and of course, her being in the Kardashian clan, she would be wealthy anyway. But if you look, she is the biggest breadwinner in that family right now. And I think it's because she has that 10 birthday, she can ride more off of the Kardashian fortune than her siblings.
I think also if you do kind of the long form of Jared Kushner's, he's born in 79. Is that what you said?
He's born in 1981.
81. Okay. So what do we have there? We got 9, and then we have 1 + 9, and that's 10. So he's at 9. So what is he? An 11? Is that what he is numerologically? 211?
+1 + 1. I believe he's a 2.
2.
Because
Right.
like 1 plus 1 plus 9 plus 8 plus 1. Yeah, he's a 2. So that's interesting because 2s, so archetypally, right? 1 is kind of like the sun, or it's the alpha. 2 is like the moon. So it's the
Right.
it's the one in the back. So
Right.
they call 2s, sometimes they can be the balancer, the two sides, but it's also the mediator. But they're often called the power behind the throne, because
Right.
they're the voice or the advisor behind
Right.
the front, and people
Right.
wouldn't necessarily know that they're the ones influencing from the back. Does it sound like
So,
Kushner?
so the 2 is the vizier in the court. He's the vizier, and he's got that one come up energy. Do you use master numbers at all when you?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Can he
What's
be
it?
can he be an 11?
I'd have to run it through my software, because I just I did the calculation on the calculator. But yeah, I mean, the thing with master numbers is it's just like, to me, it's like just like a higher octave of the regular. So if he was an 11, it's like the 2 is like moon energy, right? But
Yeah.
if you strike the 2 with a lightning bolt, it like boom. Now you get like the twin towers. So the twin
Right.
towers.
Twin Tower effect. Yeah.
Yeah, but I would definitely say that, because I just looked at it now. I hadn't looked at Kushner's numbers before, but that
Yeah.
totally fits, right? He's behind Trump. He's the
Yeah.
one like advising Trump, but then also he has that 10 birthday. So his power is really, like, you could call it I mean, I see him as a very meek guy, but he's actually very alpha in some aspects, pushing things that he wants to do. But then with the 10, he's really benefiting from being in the Trump circle.
Well, based on this expression on his face, I would not want to fuck this guy over. Right. I mean, I think that there could be some degree of cruelty involved here. Right. I mean, there's kind of there's a bit of cruelty in that face. So even though, to your point, even though he is, for all intents and purposes, very meek and mild on the surface, I think that there is another side to him that could be absolutely vicious. And Steve Bannon was a recipient of that. And Steve Bannon is not somebody that's easily pushed around. And Jared Kushner pushed him, and Jared Kushner pushed most of those military guys that were around Trump also out of the White House as well. So,
well, Kushner's dad, he was blackmailing the governor of New Jersey.
New Jersey, and did time for it. He went to prison for it.
Yeah, they put a gay honey trap on the the governor.
There's an interesting movie. It's not even a movie. It's like a series on Netflix called Red Oaks, and it's with Paul Reiser, the guy that used to be on Mad About You, and he plays a very wealthy money guy on Wall Street who winds up going through something very similar that Charles Kushner went through. It's interesting because they kind of modeled this one character in this Red Oaks, and it's kind of a comedy, but there are some dark undertones to it as well.
Okay, Robert, I pulled up. I have my software on my laptop. So I pulled it up. He actually he's the calculation here says it's actually, because he's January 10th, right?
Yeah.
January 10th, 1981, I think.
Yeah.
He's actually a life path 3, it says.
Huh.
And then but then the 11 pops up as his maturity number. So that's a number that comes in middle age. So that is like, it's like a super moon energy, like we were saying. So he's also could be, because he's in Chabad. He could be, that could literally be, he could be channeling things in also. And yeah, he's also has an 8 in his chart. The expression destiny number, which is kind of a long-term direction. Well, it's basically power and money. So he's all about power. But because he has that moon energy, it's not going to be so out front.
Right. Right.
So, yeah.
And he's just come through his Saturn return.
Yeah.
So what kind of frequency are we working with here?
I'm running 528 right now.
Okay. Is there like a keyword or phrase for that?
Yeah, it's sort of like universal love, you know.
Universal love.
Yeah.
He's got his moon in Pisces, and right now it's conjunct Neptune. Transiting Neptune has been on his moon for the last couple of years. He also has a brother, by the way, who's the exact opposite of him.
Oh, really?
His brother's a dyed-in-the-wool progressive. He's a SJW. And the interesting thing about him, Trump, and Ivanka is they all share Jupiter and Libra together. They all have Jupiter and Libra together. So they're all kind of profiting off of one another's status.
Yeah.
And
I did the calculation again. He is a life path 3. See, the pyramids got me lightheaded, Robert.
well, I was off too, right?
Need to ground again.
I know, right? And his Saturn's in Libra. So
well, you know what's interesting is I looked at Hillary Clinton's numbers, and I happen to have Hillary Clinton's birthday. She's in the first. I think she's like 3rd degree of Scorpio. It's October 26th.
Actually, yeah, and her ascendant is like really what is it? She's got first house is mostly Sagittarius in her chart.
So well, that's interesting because if I remember correctly, I know it's in her chart, but I'm pretty sure that she has a life path 3, and 3 is connected to Jupiter Sagittarius energy.
Mm-hmm.
But the life path number represents the major challenge or difficulty in the lifetime, and 3 is connected. It's creative and it's charismatic, but the lower aspect is it's like too self-critical, emotionally hard on yourself, and basically they say that she's a lesbian, right? So
basically,
so you have to think that totally fits in. And she has similar number to Jared Kushner.
So are you saying Jared Kushner's a lesbian?
They're the same type. When you have the desire for power and a low self-esteem, this is the setup of the socio-psychopath.
Yeah, that's what it feels like, because it feels like in that lower zone, because there are times, I'll be honest, I find Hillary Clinton very entertaining. Like she can be very funny. Whatever she is, but that's part of the charm as well. You see that with Jupiter. I believe she has Jupiter close to her ascendant astrologically, and her sun is in the 12th house. So there's that hidden side of her, that occulted side of her, being that 12th house sun person. And what you're getting with her is you're getting Jupiter. Also, I think she has, if I'm not mistaken, Mars up on the 9th house near the midheaven. So you're getting Mars energy and Jupiter energy, but you're not getting Hillary energy because she's really hidden. The real her is occulted and tucked away from the world. That's been my experience with her, at least astrologically.
Well, Trump really has a lot of energy, because I'm looking at her. It says she's like 73 this year, and then she's like on life support, and Trump is still going. So,
well, there's that theory about Hillary that she actually died. Do you know this theory?
It's the Hillary clone they got out there now, huh?
So the theory is that Hillary, when she made that appearance on 9/11, September 11th in 2016, and she was down at the World Freedom Phallus, and she collapsed. You remember that?
And they threw her in the van, right? Yeah.
They threw her. So there was something really, really weird. Like, I did the first Off-Planet Radio with Randy and Emily, and we were talking about all this stuff with Trump and Hillary. And that night, I said I would not be surprised if she dies. And that was September 10th. It was a Saturday night. And then the event was on Sunday, the 11th. And then what happens? I mean, just completely just drops. And then they take her to Chelsea's place. And apparently there was also registered, like Chelsea's place was registered as some kind of like emergency care center.
Mm-hmm.
You know, probably so that they could get some sort of tax break or something. But Chelsea's place was, you know, built for this. Then, of course, the woman that emerges from Chelsea's apartment is unaccompanied by Secret Service, which is unheard of. Number two, it doesn't even really look like her. So the theory was that what happened to Hillary during that time is that they had to put her on this kind of very intense sort of brace she has to wear all the time, and that they are pumping adrenochrome into her spinal column to mix in with her cerebral spinal fluid so that she can essentially stay alive. This is what I've heard. And I'm not the only one. So if you go back and look at those events, and perhaps the reason why she looks a lot more haggard than Donald Trump, who's the same age, is because she's one missed adrenochrome shipment away from withering into dust.
Well, that's the vampire, right? Well, that's what they say about Keith Richards, right? He can do all the heroin and drugs he wants because every 6 months he gets the infusion of young people's blood. So
he's on that. He's on that.
It's called it's called Ambrosia. They have a company in Silicon Valley that's Peter Thiel, supposedly one of their customers.
Oh yeah, you just know Peter Thiel's all up into that. They mocked that on that TV show Silicon Valley. Do you ever watch that sitcom?
Oh, I know which one it is. Yeah.
Yeah, Mike Judge. They actually brought that up before it became kind of mainstream, and that there's a character in there who's sort of like Larry Ellison, who gets these you know, late teenage blood transfusions. So you think Jared's had enough universal brotherhood love? You think he's gotten a good dose?
Yeah, I think he's having some revelations. Might want to check his karma. Yeah.
Okay, let's move away from Jared. Let's go back to the Dem side here, and let's bring up.
We'll try 33. That's supposedly the Christ consciousness.
Oh, really? Okay, Christ consciousness.
33.
Okay, here we go.
All right.
Here's going to be the recipient of the 33 of the 33rd frequency. Here we go.
Hey, it's Skeletor. Hey.
Let's come on. I think Nancy's on the edge to flipping her script. That's what I think. I think she's on the edge of flipping her script. I think it's been all too much for her, and whoever this is or whatever this is ready to turn a corner and, you know, come to Jesus. So the Christ energy, I think, is going to be helpful towards this end. That's what I think. She's ready. I can feel it, you know, because she's sort of vibrating, kind of breaking down, you know, sort of, you know, she's open. She's open.
She might, you know, start to grow some new neurons and brain cells because it seems like there's some synapses that have been loose, you know. So. She's
really hard to follow, and I don't know, you know, there's this theory that, you know, getting back to Hillary Clinton, that even though she was breaking down and going through all these sort of seizures and all this other stuff, that they were forcing her hand, and the part of her deal was that she had to run. Mm-hmm. And then I think that maybe the same goes for some of these other politicians that feel like they've got one foot in the grave, like they're being forced in some ways to go through all of this, because in a lot of ways it's quite humiliating. Like what Joe Biden is going through is really humiliating. It's, you know, and he could be having, you know, a number of these small seizures or strokes that are contributing this, and that could be real. But on the other hand, it is a public humiliation ritual.
Yeah, well, you know what they say, Robert. First time history happens as tragedy, and the second time as farce is a joke. So we are in clown world. we have the Maxine Waters brain malfunctions going on with our so-called leaders.
Yeah, she's got her own version of that, right?
Yeah, Putin, he invaded Korea. I mean, Crimea, Korea.
My favorite was that guy, Hank Johnson, the guy from Georgia, when he said that we needed to remove our base from Guam because if we have too many people and too many pieces of military equipment and aircraft, that Guam would sink.
Being environmental. You know?
I'm like, really? Where did you get that from? That Guam would sink? Okay. And this was years ago. This wasn't part of the. Have you done Greta Thunberg's numbers? Have you looked at her numbers? She's another Capricorn.
Let me take a look. Let's see, Greta.
Her birthday should be coming up actually.
Greta Thunberg. How dare you? She's January 3rd. So that third birthday is that Jupiter Sag energy.
Right.
So that also kind of, because she really came to prominence last year.
Yes.
That Jupiter and Sagittarius transit was happening, which really boosted her preachiness also. But also that 3 being Jupiterian is very charismatic. Mm-hmm. So and some people say she may even be an actress, right?
I think that's a given.
Yeah.
Yep. So her sun is a 12 Sag, and her moon so she was born on a new moon. She also, I think, has Chiron. We've looked at her chart before, and it's going to be interesting because I think she'll have the thing that Jupiter does. Sometimes people think that Jupiter brings a lot of good fortune and luck, but it also expands things, right? There's this idea of expansion. So she's going to have this Jupiter-Sun conjunction coming relatively soon, within the next 40 days and 45 days. And there's a couple things that can happen. She could swell up with, popularity, but also arrogance and pride. And you might see a very different side of Greta Thunberg, 2 months from now, and she might become quite insufferable in some ways.
Well, that's sort of like the Alyssa Milano effect, because she's a Sag, and you just saw she became the preacher, but ridiculous, right?
Right.
Expanded her preachiness, but Robert. So Greta Thunberg is also a psychic channel. She has an 11. And it's going to get stronger when she gets older because she has a expression destiny number 11, and she has a maturity number. So it's going to get stronger and stronger if she sticks around. So
this is an interesting topic of conversation. Yeah. So a lot of times we like to cast people in amber, and that this is who they are, this is how they're going to be for the rest of their life. But what if Greta Thunberg does have an opening or a real change in her consciousness, like when Pluto hits her Mercury, right, at 28 Capricorn, that there's something profound happens to her, which could happen, by the way. And all of a sudden she begins to see her role in the world very differently. And then she actually becomes this other version of Greta Thunberg.
Well, Joan of Arc, right? I mean,
that's what we've been comparing her to, Joan of Arc. Absolutely.
So she, because the 11, it's like super moon energy. It's like you're the lightning rod. You're connecting heaven and earth, but also 11 is basically the illuminator. It's the they say Jesus was born on 9/11, right?
Right. Yep.
It's no wonder, even though she's basically a teenage girl that's supposedly autistic, right? But she is a lightning rod. She has some kind of energy around her that draws the eye,
that's really true. Again, she has a sister, just like Jared Kushner has a brother. and it's Greta and not the sister that is the one who is the lightning rod in the film. The sister, by the way, is a singer like her mother, and travels around to all these singing competitions in a plane. But to your point, even though Greta Thunberg has been propped up and coached and pushed out, there is that archetypal energy around her, which is why she is in the position that, because if she didn't have that, I think it'd be very difficult. And again, you bring the sister into the equation. It's not the sister, it's Greta, right? That's doing this. So I think it's a really good point.
Does she have some prominent Mars energy? Because I'm looking.
Absolutely. She's got Mars in Scorpio, which is very powerful. She's got a Mars-Venus conjunction.
Because I'm looking at her. So her main number is life path 9. And 9 is connected to Mars energy. So she's a fighter. And that's what people see her as. She's look at how you've seen the photos when Trump was walking by. She's like burning up, putting dagger eyes. That's that she's running a lot of Mars Aries energy.
Right. Well, it's also really interesting too, because there are people that think that, maybe she's actually a boy.
She could be trans.
But that's what you get with that Venus Mars energy. Where you get Venus Mars, it's the masculine and the feminine, and sometimes people that have Venus Mars conjunctions, number one, I think they can be very charismatic. That's a given with Venus Mars, but also there can be this kind of asexuality, like Jeffrey Epstein had the Venus Mars conjunction, or probably still does, by the way. And so there are times you look at Epstein where he looks very, very, very femme, right? Incredibly femme, and yet he had enough of the kind of Mars energy so that people like Les Wexner and all these other people could, use him and invest in him because he had that Mars energy figure. I mean, going back to when Barr's father hired him, he saw some kind of alpha capacity, even if it was sort of femmed out with that Venus. Anyway, so you see the Mars Venus, and she has that at times ambiguity, and this whole thing around the children. She's got Jupiter and Leo, and of course she's going to like pump up the kids and pump up, her youth.
I'll tell you this too, because she has a life path 9, which is like it's a big part of her energy. This kind of like Martian Aryan energy, but it's also the difficulty. And you look, she went on the hunger strike because she was so angry at the mother for being away all the time.
Right.
But then also they call 9 the number of sacrifice, and it's considered a humanitarian number in the
very much so.
It goes 1 to 9, so 1 would be sort of like the sun, or maybe the Aries.
Right.
Alpha.
And 9 is like Piscean. It's Piscean energy.
The old man, the old soul.
Right.
But if they aren't socially active and activating that energy to kind of like inform or help people, which kind of is expressing what she's doing, although we know it's an agenda, they can literally become, because number of sacrificing your time and energy to help people, but they can literally also become a sacrifice. So I don't know if that will happen. In a way, she has been sacrificed because she sacrificed her youth to play this role.
Yeah. So. The other thing with 9 is that's Virgo's month, and you get that austerity, that Virgoan austerity with the 9. So you can see that with that hermetic Virgoan austerity with her. Like, I'll only eat 5 gnocchi.
How dare you? How dare you?
How dare you? So I got to bring Rosie in. Rosie wants to be a part of the show right now. Everybody knows Jasper. This is Jasper's soulmate right here, Rosie. And she doesn't get enough screen time, but today you must have been playing her frequency. Christ consciousness brought it in. All right, let's take our good friend, our dear friend, Nancy Pelosi, off the screen. I got one more. Let's go to the other side. Let's go to the other side of the bipartisan. What do you got? What are you going to cook up this time?
We'll go back to Crown 432.
Oh, I don't know if this guy can handle this, but let's give him a shot. Mike Pompeo. My God.
He's producing the PNAC frequency. Right?
PNAC. He's got a cheese factory down here. Mike Pompeo's a neck cheese farmer. So yeah, he'll never go hungry. Former head of the I should probably watch what I say. The guy's former head of the CIA, but I've never seen kind of a less impressive person on the world stage. I mean, he's totally unimpressive.
The feeling I get is like this guy is so blinders view. His worldview is so slim. You know.
He's a Virgo. So he's a good follower. Virgos, I love Virgo. I happen to be one. Sometimes they can be very good followers.
It's Mike Pompeo.
It's Mike Pompeo.
I think he's. Let me see.
Is he not a Virgo? I thought he was a Virgo.
He's a Cap. I think he has my mom's birthday.
Let's check. You might be right. I thought he was a Virgo.
December 30th. Let's see what he have. What's his name? Michael.
Oh, you're right. Another Capricorn. My bad. I thought he was a Virgo.
Yeah, sign
so that he fits right in, doesn't he?
Yes.
Think about it.
The greatest of all time, the goat.
So he was born in Orange, California. So he's a neighbor of yours, theoretically. He's a water rabbit. Rabbits are unusual. They're Pisces in Chinese astrology.
12:30.
It says his birth path is a 7, Masaki.
Oh, okay. So he's Piscean.
Yeah.
Let's see. Yeah, well, that could be also, he can't really see straight.
So we brought up 4 people today, and 3 of them are Capricorns. Imagine that.
Yeah. The 30 birthday is it's like super big ego. Surprise, surprise.
This he's very aggressive. He's got a Mercury Mars conjunction. That's like very aggressive. It can be very hot tempered. It's a good thing it's in Capricorn. And not a lot of conflict there. And boy, this dude is driven. He is totally driven. So he's got Mars trine Pluto in his chart. That's a big aspect. Mercury trine Pluto, very driven.
Pompeo's in a 1 year in the 9-year cycle. For his personal year is 1. So he probably really wants to bomb people this year.
Yeah, turn up that frequency a little bit higher if you can, please.
20 volts. 20 volts.
Yeah. He's got Jupiter in Aries too. So he's very, very aggressive. And then he's got that Jupiter Sun square. So he's got big plans. People with Jupiter Sun squares they dream big. They've got big ideas. And sometimes they work and sometimes they fall flat on their face. But because he's a Capricorn, he's very measured. He's very, very measured. And it's probably somebody that could make whatever his dream is come true. And he's got Saturn in Aquarius in his chart. So he'd be going through his second Saturn return starting about a year and a half, 2 years from now. About 2 years from now. Yep.
Yeah. Somebody's got to, the world's a stage. Somebody's got to play the bad guy, Robert. So, got to give him credit.
Well, apparently he's a dominionist. I don't think he's a very good bad guy, though. Like, when you want a bad guy, you want really, really good bad guys. Like he's like a kind of a minor villain in some ways. When you think of bad guys, who would you like that really fits the bill of like a real, real bad guy?
I don't know. I'd have to think about that. I like, I don't think Trump's a bad guy, but I like Trump in that he's so complicated that he can play the good guy and the bad guy.
I'd agree with that. I think it's somebody like Paul Singer. I think Paul Singer's a bad guy.
Uh-huh.
Who has the vulture capital firm, Elliott, and the guy that bought out Cabela's and basically destroyed Cabela. I think Mitt Romney can play the bad guy too. That's a guy that is capable of destroying companies and communities, right?
Well, Soros looks like the Emperor from Star Wars, so Soros could be a good one too.
Yeah. Well, Mike Pompeo is also one of these dominionists, and they're like right in there with the dispensationalists, and that they believe that once the world has been cleansed, that they're the ones that are going to be running the show. Like if you follow that movie, The Handmaid's Tale, that's kind of in the dominionist sort of camp, and that the group that kind of runs the planet are these theological and Christian elites. And I think he's in that camp, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah. It's funny. Trump is a life path 4, of course.
Mm-hmm.
He's 4 is the Aquarius Uranus energy.
Right. So mine is 211. I've got the 211 thing going on.
Yeah. So it's super psychic, Robert.
From my experience as a 211, I find it much easier to be an 11 than a 2 in some ways, right? Like for me, this is great because we get to talk about this stuff. There's a chat room, this is kind of community. It's like that to me is the 11 piece. The 2 piece, I'm not always all that comfortable with and easy to deal with. But the bigger piece, I found I've been able to gravitate to.
Well, if someone has an 11 on their chart, if they're born on the 11th, that's like, we were talking about it. It's a natural psychic channel.
Right.
But it can be difficult to ride because, literally 2's duality. You're going to feel different than other people. A lot of them become like either codependent or really question themselves. But the image that, I think people should have is literally, it's like you'll have ideas and realizations just pop in. It has no context, but people will have very significant ideas. And as they get older and begin to master it, instead of getting hit by lightning bolts and having these things just come in, you become the master and you start throwing the lightning bolts,
Right. That's a good analogy. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I was born on the 22nd, which is a double 11. And it's been an interesting ride, to say the least. So what's Pompeo again? He's a 9, or would you say he was a 9 or 4?
Oh no, Trump was a life path 4, but
Pompeo's a 7.
Yeah,
he's the 7. Did you ever get into Ellis Taylor's numerological work at all? Have you dove into Ellis's work?
I haven't looked at it. No.
So the very first broadcast, I'm going to get rid of Mike Pompeo. It's kind of bugging me. The very first podcast I did was with Ellis Taylor.
Uh-huh.
And I discovered Ellis. He was doing some really, really interesting work on decoding the London Olympics. And it was fascinating stuff. And so I decided I wanted to have him on my show as a guest. So we got to know each other a little bit. And Ellis is a numerologist. He doesn't really do that much numerology anymore, but his style of numerology is unlike anything I've ever run across. So you should connect with him at some point, Masaki.
I'll check it out because I wasn't aware of his work. So.
You should connect with him. There's, and this is no slight to you. You're really, really good at what you do. Like you're really, really good. Ellis is just in another dimension, and the way he interprets the numbers and the letters are unlike anybody I've ever run across. So it'd be great for you to connect with him, and maybe you could soak some of that up from him.
What I'll say is this, because I'm self-taught. I didn't intend to, but I just got into it, and then I just kept going. The most popular type of numerology is Pythagorean numerology.
Right.
And it works. You won't get a bad reading, but they don't incorporate planets. They don't connect numbers to astrological aspects. And then also in Pythagorean numerology, they'll say that basically all combinations are the same. So example, both Hillary Clinton and I are born on the 26th, right? 2 and 6 is 8. You
Mhm.
know, Chinese love 8 because lucky, like money, it's, Saturn alien. 8 is connected to Capricorn, Saturn energy. So the most popular numerology, Pythagorean numerology, they'll say the 8th of the month, the 17th, 1 and 7 is 8, and 26, 2 and 6 is 8. It's all the same. It's not the same. It's
Well,
similar.
it's not the same. Yeah.
But the manifestation is different. So when you bring in the Chaldean, it's kind of goes to a deeper level of the karmic expression. And so I kind of use a hybrid. I kind of pick from here and pick from there. And then I incorporate a little astrology. I'll check where they are in the decan before we start the reading. So we kind of know what we're dealing with. We have a Gemini, a Sag,
Right.
So
Right.
forth. So I've been doing it that way. But yeah, I'll check this guy out because I haven't heard.
Check Ellis out. He's a whole other world. Let's check in with the chat. Speaking of checking, we got 123 people. We still got 123 people here.
Wow.
Attorney Barr is a bag of fat. So Barr's father apparently wrote a science fiction book about aliens and child abduction. Do you know that?
Wow. I never heard that.
Yeah. Yeah. Let's see. Ted Cruz is my favorite Capricorn. He's interesting. Bo is a Capricorn.
Is Mayor Pete a Cap too? I think so.
He is a Cap. Buttigieg is a Cap, and so is Andrew Yang.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Andrew Yang's a Cap. He's got a bunch of planets in Aquarius. Let's see what else we have here. Let's see what else we have. The guy Hagee is dangerous. Really, Capricorn's the bad spirits. My Cap friends are awesome, reliable, but I have a Cap moon. I've always liked Capricorns.
I like Caps too, because they're about their business. So, like let's get to work.
So Michael, 37 Divine Michael, Virginia just passed the gun ban. Whoa, is that true? Let's look that up. Let's do a quick search here.
Let's see. Yep. General Assembly passes capital gun ban.
Okay, well, keep your eye on Virginia. It's going to get hot. It is going to get hot. You know, that was they're reincarnating the Civil War through Virginia.
All this reminds me of Freeman Fly, because he said for years, this is all just for your reaction. I mean, we know that it works on multiple levels, but it really is that, they've been trying to really polarize the society for a while.
Yeah.
You have to stand up for your rights, but at the same time, it's like we're saying, there's the externalization and then there's the internal power. And I think a lot of the public they're running on pure autopilot, and they're just going to react. They're being reactive instead of really being powerful in themselves, getting sucked into these agendas and stuff.
So I was, can you drive a submarine under Guam? I don't know. I'm sorry. I'm looking at some of the chats. And there was somebody in here called the Scarecrow. I'm not seeing this. I'd love to have a moderator for my chats. Anybody want to moderate the chats? If you want to volunteer for moderation, let me know. If you're one of the people. Let's see. What else we have here? Freeman is right. Yes. Okay. Well, it's going to be interesting. Keep your eye on Virginia. That's for damn sure. I've got some contacts with some people who kind of know on the inside what's going on the Second Amendment side. Very, like the brother of a sheriff and stuff like that. So if I can get any information moving forward, I'll pass it along. Now, here we go. They're doing it right at the lunar eclipse, right? I mean, again, dark magic, lunar eclipse, and Yeah.
Overreach of government.
That's what we're seeing. That's what we're totally seeing. So let's take Mike Pompeo off the vibrational ecstasy for now. And you got anything else you want to say to anybody, Masaki?
Well, I just want to, say thanks and give a fist bump to all the people in the chat and all Robert's followers, because I think you've created a real community and kind of family atmosphere. People really gravitate to your message and have some good, intelligent conversations. So, and I'm one of them. I enjoy watching your show and kind of seeing what people are talking about on the forum and things like that.
Yes, it's great. It's a great group of people, very incredibly informed. And next year, well, I guess it's this year now, I'm going to have another event. And darn it, I want you to come.
Yeah, I happened. We originally I was going to be there, but then the schedules didn't line up. But I'm down, Robert. 2020. Well, let's be our own master builders. Let's do what we want to do.
Absolutely. So first weekend of October, circle it.
Okay.
Don't go to any lovely foreign countries eating tremendous food and ogling at the beautiful people that live there. Okay. Well, thanks, Masaki. I know we were going to talk about more. We're going to talk about music and stuff like that, but maybe we can save that for another time. We'll have you back on. And thanks again for coming on. It's been a really great show and really fantastic to have that meditation too. So thanks for that.
And you inform me a lot too. I'm a guest, but just kind of being informed of what you're doing, it helped me level up too. So
that's great. We're rising together, right? Rising together. Let's give it up for Masaki. Round of applause. Right on, brother. So I'll be back on Sunday night. Sunday night is going to be the Saturn-Pluto conjunction. And we've got, 48 hours roughly between now and then, a little bit over 48 hours. So I'm sure we'll have plenty to talk about, plenty to look at. And it's interesting that the show is actually falling on the conjunction. So, be here or, be Saturn squared or something like that.
Be there or be squared.
Be squared. All right. Use your head to discern what's real, your heart say what's possible. Find him at akaida.com. Find me at robertphoenix.com and find yourself wherever you are. Take good care. We'll see you guys on Sunday night.